Okay, so I'm here to explain what happens when Jupiter goes into the sixth house. So let's explain what the sixth house is. The sixth house represents small pets, small animals, your health, diseases, everyday conflicts, everyday issues, things we face on an everyday basis. For example, you driving, you get a flat tire, how you go about solving that. You stuck in traffic, you go to work, you get some letter, you in some meeting, you fighting for your job, you gotta go to court for jury duty, you gotta go to court for some divorce. These are some extreme examples, but it just represents the everyday conflicts and the issues that we face on an everyday basis. This is a house that is ruled by Mercury in Virgo. And when you understand this house, you understand why Mercury or Virgos is very so analytical and critical, because it takes a sharp analytical and practical mind to deal with the everyday issues like paying the bills, make sure the mortgage is good and you don't get evicted. Staying on top of those everyday things that we need to do in this materialistic, industrial, modernized world and society that we live in. Like, oh man, I gotta go pay this bill. Oh man, I gotta go take my car to the shop. Oh man, I gotta go get a new phone. I gotta go take care of this leaking roof. I gotta go take my kid to the hospital to get this procedure done. It represents those issues and conflicts that we deal with on an everyday basis. The sixth house can represent debts, bills, the things that we owe people. That's the sixth house. So, what is Jupiter? Jupiter represents wisdom, divine knowledge, esoteric knowledge, our belief system, astrology, mysticism, spirituality. It's similar to Mercury because they both represent two different types. They both represent intellectualism and wisdom, but it's just two different types of intellectualism and wisdom. Mercury is more so of that filing your taxes, mathematical type of knowledge and wisdom, while Jupiter is more so well-rounded, all-around type of wisdom and knowledge. They use, very esoteric, very spiritual, very philosophic type of knowledge and wisdom and whatnot. So this really isn't sort of the best place for Jupiter to be here. It feels a little bit uncomfortable being here. You're taking a monk, you're taking a guru, and you put him in a place where he has to deal with all the things he detached himself from, all the things he renounced himself from. You're taking some spiritual person who stepped away from the everyday world, and you're immersing him into the everyday world with Jupiter in the sixth house. One of the things you can see with Jupiter in the sixth house, since the sixth house also represents like a house of conflict and struggles, a person with Jupiter in the sixth house, they can potentially maybe get into a whole lot of disagreements and arguments with their teachers, with their professors. Maybe in school and in college, you probably don't agree with your teachers. You get into arguments with them or whatever. You bump heads with them. You could probably get into a whole bunch of intellectual debates regarding religion and spirituality and astrology and belief system. You just get into a whole lot of arguments with people. You probably flex your knowledge, flex your knowledge and your wisdom on other people, make them feel lesser than what they are, and get into arguments and debates and almost fights with people possibly. Jupiter is a very optimistic planet. It's optimistic and lighthearted for the most part. There's this quote, there's this saying that goes like, a sad guru is a sad guru. Someone who's really like a guru, someone who's like really spiritually enlightened and tapped in with God and all that stuff, they really don't have no reason to be really sad and depressed or whatnot, But that's a quote, and I forgot who quoted it. But Jupiter's an optimistic planet. So, you bring this guru into this everyday world, he's able to still be optimistic and lighthearted, even though he got all these bills past due. Even though his kid got sickle cell and these crazy medical bills. Even though they just got a flat tire and they've been riding around a donut for like a month. They're still optimistic. So these people, their whole world can be crumbling and falling down around them. But they'll still be optimistic and lighthearted and faithful in their outlook on the situation being resolved. The Jupiter in the sixth house native, they might bring in their faith and their religion and their mysticism and astrology to deal with the sixth house matters and problems. What do I mean by this? Someone with Jupiter in the sixth house, they can depend on their God, their religion, and just their faith to help them overcome the bills that they got to do, the health that they're experiencing, the diseases, the court cases. They might run to God. They might run to healing crystals. They might go get a tarot reading. They might just rely on some outside divine force to help them relinquish the troubles of their problems that they face on the everyday world. And, that might not really cut it and fly too much to the average everyday Joe, because, bills are real. We got real bills and things that you got to face on an everyday basis. You just can't pray and hope things get better. It's okay to pray. It's okay to get a tarot reading. It's okay to meditate, but it needs to be action behind your faith. So someone with Jupiter in the sixth house, they can get too caught up in their faith. They can get too caught up in relying on mantras and remedies and all these outside things to turn their life around, to turn their health around, to get rid of these bills. They can rely on that maybe too heavily to cure the issues of the everyday conflicts that I just listed for examples in the sixth house. So that is something that can possibly happen. They can rely too heavily on their faith and not apply enough action when it comes into, the everyday issues and problems that we face in the sixth house. But that's just about it. Someone who properly uses their Jupiter in the sixth house, they might be able to use their wisdom, their spiritual esoteric knowledge in a good way. I'm trying to come up with some examples. They might use with a sprinkle of, they might become a vegan. They might use herbs. They might come up with some natural, organic remedies to overcome diseases, because the sixth house represents diseases and health issues. They might have some ritual, some spiritual routine or whatever, and they might be able to apply it in a real practical, good way and use it to overcome their diseases. They might have real good money oils. They might have good mantras and prayers or whatever that's good for bringing in money to help relieve the issues of bills and maybe help them overcome and win court cases. They might be able to use that faith in a balanced way and not too much of a heavy-handed, solely relying way to overcome their issues. Jupiter represents expansion and overabundance. So, maybe possibly someone might become real obese with Jupiter in the sixth house. That's about it for Jupiter in the sixth house. I'm going to give you this extra tidbit knowledge. One of the reasons that the sixth house is associated with small pets and animals, because small pets and animals, they deal with issues and conflicts on an everyday basis. Think about it. We see a spider, we see an ant, we see a little bug, we want to kill it. So a bug, a small animal, they gotta always be on the lookout. They gotta always look over their shoulder and be smart and calculated to make sure they don't get killed, to make sure they don't get hit. Birds get killed and hit all the time. Animals get hunted and killed by poachers. We kill little small spiders and bugs when we see them because we're scared of them. We are the small people. We are the small animals in the greater grand scheme of things. So the things that crush us, in a sense, is sort of like our health. It's sort of like our bills. So whatever planet is in your sixth house, it's how you might go about overcoming those obstacles that we face in an everyday basis. And like I said, with Jupiter in the sixth house, you'll try to overcome them in an optimistic way, in a spiritual way, in some astrological way, in some remedy way, in some mantra way, in some healing crystals type of way. You'll be more prone to use your faith, likely, than real practical, logical, everyday wisdom to face those issues. And that is all I got to say when it comes to Jupiter in the sixth house. I hope that this video resonated for you, and thank you for watching.